Hello, you're watching CNN and this is Connect the World with me, Lynda Kinkade. Welcome back. The Sunday Times is reporting that Russia and China have cracked Edward Snowden's encrypted files. Snowden, as you may recall, is the former US intelligence contractor who stole huge amounts of data from the National Security Agency and leaked it to the media. The Times says the British government was forced to change its spying operations after Snowden's files were decrypted, but it left several key questions unanswered. CNN talked with a reporter who co-wrote the article. We asked him, is the paper just reporting the government's statements unchecked?
No, I mean, we picked up on the story a while back from an extremely well-placed source in the Home Office, and then carried on trying to substantiate what was going on through various sources in various agencies throughout Britain, and then finally presented the story to the government, and they effectively confirmed what you read in today's Sunday Times.
Now, CNN has not independently confirmed the Sunday Times report. Phil Black has more on this from London.
The Sunday Times reports both Russia and China have decrypted top-secret files originally stolen by Edward Snowden, the whistleblower and former NSA contractor. It quotes multiple sources across intelligence agencies and government who say this development has disrupted operations by potentially endangering the lives of operatives, some of which have had to be moved as a precaution, but none has been harmed. The journalists behind the story say it reports what they were able to substantiate, but it does not attempt to explain how the governments of Russia and China may have obtained this information. Edward Snowden has always insisted he would never give it up voluntarily to any other country, and always said that his skills were sufficient to protect that information, even from governments highly skilled themselves at extracting digital secrets. Nor does the article attempt to explain how the British government knows that these files have been decrypted. The British government has made no official response to the story. It's standard policy for intelligence matters. But British intelligence services have long argued that Edward Snowden has damaged their intelligence gathering capacity, making the job of protecting national security, they say, much harder. Phil Black, CNN, London.
Now, for more on this, journalist Glen Greenwald broke the original story on the NSA leak. He is the co-founder of The Intercept, a news website, and he joins us now on Skype from Rio de Janeiro, Brazil. Thanks so much for your time today.
Good to be with you.
Now, we know Edward Snowden is in Russia, and according to this report, Russia and China have gained access to more than 1 million classified files held by him. Is that possible, and do you think China has the capability to crack the encrypted codes, revealing information about British and US spies?
This is the kind of reporting that has single-handedly destroyed the credibility of journalism around the world. That clip that you played from the reporter for the Sunday Times is the funniest thing I've ever heard. You ask him, are you only just repeating claims from the government? And he says, oh no, we have many sources. And he then went on to explain that he talked to numerous government officials in various agencies who told him this. I think that people are smart enough by now to know that when you read in the paper accusations and smears from the government who are too cowardly to even put their names on it, this is all anonymous officials making these accusations. No evidence is presented for it. People know by now, after the war in Iraq and the way the media helped the government to sell those lies, that that's completely unreliable, shoddy journalism. That journalist is a liar who's doing nothing but writing down what his government friends tell him to and then giving them anonymity to protect it. It's a ridiculous story.
It was absolutely full of anonymous sources, and you wrote a stinging response saying, and I quote, "This is the very opposite of journalism. Ponder how dumb someone has to be at this point to read an anonymous government accusation made with zero evidence and accept it as true." So you think that this report is completely baseless?
Well, it's filled with lies. For example, Edward Snowden has always said that he took no documents with him when he left Hong Kong, that he's never had any documents with him in Russia, that he gave it all to journalists and then destroyed his own copy. So the Sunday Times reporter wants to help the government by claiming, no, Edward Snowden did have documents in Moscow. And the way they tried to do that was by saying that my partner, David Miranda, was detained in Heathrow after coming back from visiting Snowden and receiving documents. That is a total lie. David Miranda was never in Moscow prior to being detained at Heathrow. He had never met with Edward Snowden. I believe the Sunday Times has now just deleted that paragraph without any indication that they did so. Or they say Snowden downloaded 1.7 million documents. The NSA itself says that they have no idea how many documents Edward Snowden downloaded, that they're not able ever to figure it out because their systems don't allow that. And so the article is just filled with lies in order to help these anonymous people in government who are too cowardly to say these claims themselves.
Now, although there's no evidence of anyone being harmed, the article did claim that a senior Home official said that they claim that Snowden has blood on his hands. Now, you broke the original story on Snowden. Do you take any responsibility for the harm that's been done or could be done?
It's completely moronic, that claim. In the article, it says the government official whose identity we're hiding says that Snowden has blood on his hands, and then later it says there's no evidence anyone has been harmed. Well, if there's no evidence anyone has been harmed, how can he have blood on his hands? It's just a way of smearing whistleblowers and sources. If you go back to 1971, when Daniel Ellsberg leaked the Pentagon Papers, who's now widely regarded as a hero, Nixon officials did the same thing. They planted claims with the media that Ellsberg had secretly passed sensitive documents to the Kremlin, to the Soviet Union, in order to smear Ellsberg. This is what they do in every case. Responsible journalists question whether or not there's evidence for it, as you're, to your credit, doing, whereas propagandists simply print it without any questioning of it, and that's what the Sunday Times has done.
And this article, of course, comes after significant wins for Snowden and for his supporters, specifically the US Patriot Act, which was struck down recently, reducing the US administration's spying powers. How do you think this issue will play out as the presidential race really kicks into gear? And do you think this will be a big deal?
I think it's a great point. Not only did the Congress just pass a law banning the program that we first reported at The Guardian, thanks to Edward Snowden, but 2 weeks before that, an appellate court in New York said that the NSA spying program that we revealed was illegal. And so you have this kind of pro-Snowden sentiment spreading throughout the media. Well, you know what? Maybe he was a patriot. I think he did do the right thing at exactly the time this article comes out. You have members of both parties, Rand Paul, Republican, and Bernie Sanders, a Democrat, and even Hillary Clinton, saying that the NSA has gone too far, defending Snowden in some cases. And that's what they're really worried about, is that the heroism of Snowden is now finally being accepted, and that's why they needed to smear him this way.
Well, we will see how this plays out over the coming weeks and, well, the coming year and a half as the campaign goes on. We really appreciate your time today.
Thank you.
Glen Greenwald, thank you very much for joining us.
Good to be with you.